Hello, this is the 68th lecture of Revelation and World History. Last time, we finished the lectures on chapters 1 through 10 of Revelation and World History. Out of a total of 12 lectures, we are moving toward the conclusion. We covered very important themes in the interpretation of the book of Revelation. We examined the substantive identity of the two beasts, appearing in Revelation chapter 13. We also identified the figure corresponding to the beast with two horns like a lamb, namely, 666. And the community comprising the 144,000. Furthermore, we historically substantiated the relationship between Gog and Magog and Babylon. And we looked into history to find out what kind of war the Battle of Armageddon was. In this lecture, we will examine the when is the end. Revelation and World History, Chapter 11, The Last Days and Seasons of Prophecy. Section 1, Signs of the Last Days. But about that day and hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Matthew chapter 24 verse 36. Only God knows when the last day will be. That statement is equivalent to saying, only God decides that day. However, on the other hand, all of history is proceeding exactly as it was predetermined by God's plan. Learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branches become tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, know that the Son of Man is near, even at the door. Matthew chapter 24 verses 32 to 33. This means that, although we do not know the exact day and hour, people will be able to know it sufficiently by observing certain signs or historical developments when that day draws near. He will send out his angels with a great trumpet sound. Matthew chapter 24 verse 31. God said that He would announce it on that day by blowing a trumpet. Therefore, we must always be awake and listening carefully to know when the trumpet sound will be heard. Revelation and World History, Chapter 11, Section 2. The Sound of the Trumpet. The book of Revelation features scenes of 7 angels blowing trumpets several times. Let us examine the words of Revelation chapter 8. And I saw 7 angels standing before God, and they were given 7 trumpets. Revelation chapter 8 verse 2. And the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets were ready to blow them. Revelation chapter 8 verse 6. As such, before the prophecies recorded in Revelation are fulfilled, the scene of angels blowing trumpets appears first. Are fulfilled, the scene of angels blowing trumpets appears first. This signifies that, once the 7 angels begin to blow their trumpets, the predetermined histories are fulfilled in order. The key point of interpretation is what the sound of the trumpet is, and how we perceive the trumpet sound resounding from the heavens. To summarize, the fact is that the trumpet sound has already resounded, yet no one realizes it. The trumpet sound was so loud that everyone could hear it. But the people of the world did not know that it was the sound of an angel's trumpet. In the book of Revelation, we can see that, when the 7 angels blow the 7 trumpets, the predetermined history is fulfilled in order. When the history of this world is unfolding, the sound of the trumpet is not heard in that place. The trumpet sound is none other than the very news of the fulfilled historical event being made known to the people of the world. In Revelation chapter 18, the great city Babylon falls. And the sound of the city falling is recognizable by everyone in the world. Through that sound of collapse, one can recognize that the trumpet sound has indeed resounded. Following this trumpet sound, the angels carry out history in obedience to God's command. And this progression becomes the history of the fulfillment of prophecy. The fact is that, when people look at the history that has unfolded, they can tell that the trumpet call had already been sounded. On November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. And on October 3, 1990, the divided East and West Germany were reunified. Just over a year later, the entire federation constituting the Soviet Union was dissolved. Everyone heard the sound of the Berlin Wall falling. People all over the world witnessed it vividly. However, even at that time, no one imagined that the Soviet Union would collapse. The Soviet Union collapsed just over 2 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Thus, events such as the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Soviet Union were great turning points in history that everyone on the entire globe could recognize. That sound was, in fact, a sound that anyone could hear. The statement that 7 angels will blow 7 trumpets signifies that predetermined history is unfolding. These 7 trumpets are a sound, heralding that a series of historical events, beginning with the invasion of Babylon and ending with the collapse of Babylon, will proceed in sequence. Therefore, although this trumpet sound cannot be heard by the human ear, we can know that the trumpet has already sounded, through the fulfillment of the prophecy recorded in the text. Furthermore, these historical events occurring today can be witnessed simultaneously by the entire world, through live broadcasts. Babylon will invade many nations, and rule for 70 years, Jeremiah 25 verse 12. And the core of the prophecy is that, eventually, Babylon itself will be destroyed. The Soviet Union was established by Stalin in 1922. And it was dissolved in 1991, while Gorbachev was in office. It existed for exactly 70 years, before fading into the annals of history. This series of processes is the history that unfolds whenever the 7 trumpets in the book of Revelation sound. In other words, the history of prophecy fulfillment. It was said, when you hear this trumpet sound, know that the end is near. The Soviet Union, having completed its 70-year lifespan, has already vanished. Now, the last remaining thing is the end of the North Korean Kim Il-sung communist regime, established by Stalin. Knowing that time becomes our immediate task. The Soviet Union, which persecuted the church and instilled fear of communism in the world, existed for 70 years, but has already vanished. Also, the 2 horns that ruled North Korea, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, have already died. However, in North Korea, which is ruled by Kim Il-sung's grandson Kim Jong-un, the church has not yet been restored. Nevertheless, when the time comes, every prophecy that the dead church will rise again will be fulfilled without exception. The final remaining historical fulfillment of the Book of Revelation and the prophetic books is the restoration of the North Korean church. We know that time is near. Understanding that time correctly and preparing for it will be the greatest task currently facing the Korean church. In the next lecture, we will examine Chapter 11, Section 3, There Will Be War Until the Very End. It was the Bible History School.